Hi, everybody. So my name is Dan Huber. I'm based here in Zurich, Switzerland. I run a single family office for the last 20 years. Before that, I have been in the financial market, active with a company. Some of you might remember www.oanda.com. Was one of the companies I was involved at that time. Early 2000, I started as a family office investor. And besides my background, I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction to one of our latest investment. It's called a.DNA, authenticated DNA of companies, which is hopefully not only solving a problem we had in our family office, but maybe some of your investors or family office people that are watching this, as well as startups or SME companies, can basically identify themselves with it. So we tried to solve this problem actually quite early in 2010, 11, 12, but it didn't really work. And then with the arrival of blockchain, we really thought it would be a time for another try to establish what we basically call a permanent pre-due diligence data room, which serves startups, SMEs, as well as the whole investor community. So we position ourselves as a platform that helps to solve some corporate governance and compliance issues. And what we're trying to solve, or have solved actually with a running platform, already exists in other industries for many years. So for example, in the airline industry, every airplane has a black box. Why? Because the airline manufacturer, as well as the airline itself, wants to know what happened during a flight with the pilot, with the condition outside the plane, with the plane itself. Similar in the modern electrical cars or any cars today, you have an accident chip, which records everything that happens to the car, to the driver, etc. And quite similar to this, we as investors have always had a problem with startups knocking on our door and basically asking us for an investment. And then we said, yeah, could be a match. Let's give us some high-level documentation. And of course, we waited for 3 days or 3 weeks sometimes until we finally got something, because data rooms are usually incomplete, both at the startup level, but also some SMEs never have their data ready. And of course, if you've ever been involved in an operational position, you know it's quite time-consuming at the time that somebody knocks on your door and says, oh, cool, what you have done here in the last couple of years, we want to buy your company. And the stress for the management team starts. And last but not least, documents need to be authenticated, meaning C-level people need to prove that they have the real thing uploaded and approved. All the documents are signed. And of course, that leads to this traceability and verification that we think, in a nutshell, leads to one thing that in today's investment world is so important after all these FTX cases and others that we have had to witness: trust. And trust you receive if you have authenticated data and create what we call a full data integrity, thus achieving a high level of trust. So our life cycle, of course, is very simple: shareholder agreements, perpetual integrity, physical assets. On the startup side, usually very rarely exists. So startups have usually a few documents, but then, of course, as a startup, you are planning to grow into an SME company. And over the years, more and more of the documents arrive, and really important contracts and new CVs of management people, loan agreements with banks, etc., which eventually, after 5 years, 10 years, sometimes 20 years, leads into something that might be an M&A transaction or handing over your company to the next generation. And this is basically also demanding that the whole history or the whole DNA, as we call it, is always ready and authenticated. How we do this, very quickly, before I show you the product live, is of course, somebody uploads a document, either an internal or an external document, and somebody else in the management team approves it. On very, very important documents, maybe even the board of directors approval is needed. We have a concept of external key partner verification. We could be your fiduciary company, your lawyer, or even a board member could take this role. And last but not least, currently, since last year, we are hashing all of our clients' data room once a month on currently 2 or 3 blockchain layers. We're just expanding our blockchain offering because it's not our data room, it's our client's data room, and some have a preference for this layer 1 blockchain, some have a preference to other blockchain layers. So I stopped my pitching here very quickly, and I'd like to show you now the full screen of our product. So very simply, we have here the year, the actual year that we're in. We are collecting something that we call the key folders on these different topics. Here we are quite stubborn. We say every company has to have that. A lot more flexibility is of course already done here on the corporate folders. I would say the first 6, 7, 8 folders of our technologies is quite common in most of our clients' customer or data room. As you can see here, for example, if something is missing that you really need, the administrator can upload that. Last but not least, if, for example, somebody like me, it's set up as an owner in this company, wants to have his private stuff as well, he can add that. It's not a must-have, but he can do that. As you can see, we are working in the previous pitch. You saw that little color scheme. So, of course, the goal is to have everything in dark green, which is the sign for completeness. I'll show you here, for example, an example of 2021 on our own a.DNA data room. So walk the talk. We're using this for our own purposes. And as you can see, everything is fully completed, approved. For example, if I go in this year into the corporate folder, a small tutorial comes here. And I, for example, want to see our chartered documents. I can open this. And basically, I can see here that these up here on the upper right-hand corner, I can see that these are the people that have been approving this particular document at the time it was uploaded. And I can see when they have done it, etc. If I still have today a comment to this document, I can do this here. So this is in a nutshell how we do it. And a good example here, for example, why is the tax folder, even for the year 2021, not fully completed or dark green? Well, because even in very efficient Switzerland, we haven't received a tax audit for the year from the Swiss government, nor have we had the social security audit of our company and all its employees. So this basically, in a nutshell, is what we do. As administrator, of course, I have very simple things. I can look at all of my history so that, for example, in this presentation today, I have viewed a document, creates a log. Since I'm an administrator in this company, I can see how many gigabytes of data we already been using. And just to give you an indication here, our data room has been totally completed for more than 4.5 years. And we're using 1.6 gigabytes of a total of 5 gigabytes that we have on the cloud. I can define very simply who in our data room has which rights. So I can set up different people internally. I can also invite other people like investors that might be interested from the wholesale investor community to view certain things. So I can give them access to it. I can set up my own customer roles if we haven't matched that. I can see, of course, who are the active users. I can also have inactive users. So if a CEO or a CFO eventually leaves the company, I can set him to inactive or her. And last but not least, I can define what and who can see what in particular folders on my system. So this basically in a nutshell is what we do. Of course, the system does give me some indication if I have to do something. So for example, a new document, our pitch document was uploaded by one of our co-workers here, Urs. And now I'm being asked to approve this document. And while I'm in the live demonstration, I quickly do this with you. So this is actually a pretty large document, so it will take a second or two to upload. And basically you see here this pitching document that I'm going to be switching back in a second. And since I know it's the right one that Urs, my colleague, has uploaded, I'm going to approve this and say, yes, it is the right version. So basically I'm doing this approval now. It gives me a confirmation that I have approved it. I have no pendings anymore, so I'm basically done and can return now to whatever else I'm doing. Updating our own data room as it is today, it needs the whole management team at a.DNA anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes a month, because it's not your expense reports or something that you upload into a.DNA or into your a.DNA. It is really just the very, very important elements. So very quickly now, switching back to my pitching information. What we do and how we do it, you have seen now on the product demonstration in the live mode. Of course, the process of how we do it is company owners and executive people as well as board members have a very important role. External parties that are interested in this authenticated DNA stuff is, of course, either on the banking side, on the auditing side, lawyers as well as investors, eventually corporate buyers, and key partners basically monitor from an external position a little bit that the company is really updating the right stuff in the right order, in the right format. Our marketing positioning is that, of course, we want to become the company's single source of truth, which then eventually can serve all kinds of different external as well as internal bodies and organizations to make sure that what you're handing over to these people is the final and actual version and the latest version that you have. Some of the founders, quickly, I'm coming more from an investor venture capital background. Donny Bernard is our CTO. Urs is a guy who runs a large M&A boutique here in Switzerland. And our president of the board, Urs Rechsteiner, is a lawyer. Last but not least, everything that you've seen now is also since December of last year available on mobile. The a.DNA version on iPhone is released and actively used by startup companies as well as SME companies that we have. And we are working currently on the Android version, so this should be released next month. So that basically is in a nutshell what we do. And I hope you found that interesting. If you're a startup, definitely a suggestion from an investor point of view, do this because it could be very helpful in your pitching to investors, showing them a little bit of, let's call it, good governance and compliance. And investors usually like that. That you have, even you're just 6 months or a year old, you have your company and everything within your company a little bit in good order. With this, I'm basically concluding my pitching as well as my live presentation.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you very much for that.
Hi, Hugo.
It's really cool. I think I think we're going to dive deeper into a.DNA, maybe the name behind it would be very good to understand, compliance, the evolution of it in digital finance. And when a company is compliant, its impact on the efficiency in moving in the capital markets. But before we get into that, I'd love to talk a bit more about your personal journey. I know you've talked about it, but could you maybe take us through your journey so far?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I wanted to solve with a.DNA a pain point we had in our own family office. And this was at the time of the investment, we were waiting for documents. Finally, we got some documents. And then we wanted to make sure that at the time when we transfer the 500,000 over to the startup company or sometimes even SME companies, we wanted to have a clear hash, a clear freeze on the documents that we were given. Okay. And already at that early stage, this kind of hashing the data room on public blockchain at the day you're transferring the money is a protection for me as an investor, but as well as a protection for the management team of the startup or SME company, because it's both ways. They can prove to me what documents they have given me for my due diligence work. And I can prove that I had these documents or I didn't, In classical M&A technology elements, nowadays you do this on encrypted USB sticks and et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to have this a little bit more of a dynamic, making sure that both sides understand that this is the material that we had for the due diligence. The second part was, I don't want to do micromanagement in investments that we're involved in, but I want from time to time see how the company is doing. And with a.DNA then starting to turn into a platform where I can monitor a little bit, how well updated they have done their things is very nicely. And the very nice thing about what I like, things in the a.DNA are always at the same place. So I don't have to look at the Dropbox structure that I don't understand. I don't have to look at the SharePoint structure that I don't understand. It's always at the same place. So the shareholder agreement is always there. The financial information is always there. And I know it because it's in every company the same.
Makes sense.
Almost the same.
Almost. But yeah, I mean, the structure is pretty straightforward, especially by the looks of the demo. And look, going from what have been your challenges so far moving from an investor to a CEO?
Not
learnings, maybe not challenges, learnings would be more.
I think it's good sometimes as an investor to jump back into the CEO role, because it really shows, how many loose strings you have to tie together, how you have to make sure that your investors, in my sense, my family, of course, is happy about the reporting and sees that we're making progress and that we are, hiring the right people and taking the right steps and, do the minutes and do the board minutes and the management minutes and publish them and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it is a good exercise for all kinds of investors, or particularly in my case, to sometimes jump back into the driver's seat, which is not what I'm planning to do for the next 5 years within a.DNA. But I think helping this company from an operational point of view was a good exercise and a good learning point for me again, and hopefully helps my investment questions and style as well.
For sure. And look, moving on to a.DNA at a very high level, we'll go a bit more in depth later on. How do you differentiate yourself from other data management solutions in the market?
I think the big differentiating is that we are tying documents to people, irrevocable. Thus making sure that, people understand establishing a company or managing a company in a C-level position brings a lot of fun and a lot of work, but also brings some responsibilities towards yourself, towards your co-C-level people, towards your board, and last but not least, towards your investors and the society. Because, driving a car today needs a license. in Switzerland, in Australia, in the UK, everywhere, you know. I'm not saying that establishing a company should require a license, but I think people have to understand, you know, starting a startup is not only fun. It brings some real important responsibilities with it as well, you know.
Absolutely. And look, now let's moving on to the evolution of compliance in digital finance. I know you were recently, reflecting on your panel participation at the World Economic Forum in Davos recently. What is your perspective on the current state of compliance?
I think from a legal point of view, there's a lot of compliance rules in place in various jurisdictions. Some go overboard with their compliance requirements. Some keep it very minimum. But in general, I think, you know, people should view compliance as part of establishing a company, like benchmarks, you know. So whatever jurisdiction you're in, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand every little detail of compliance, but you have to apply common sense to your compliance measures and to your compliance steps that you're taking in the company. And I think the best would be to say, okay, what kind of compliance elements would I love to see from a company that I'm maybe not in the C-level management team reporting to me, you know? So in a nutshell, I would say we have enough compliance rules and we have enough possibilities to control from a legal point of view what governments or tax people want to see. But you know, you got to do it. I mean, and that's the point. You know, you're gonna have to once in a while sit down and, you know, go by the rule. Whatever your jurisdiction you're coming from is requiring your company to basically have as a compliant element. You know, and in a nutshell, it's not that much. But as a CFO usually, or as a CEO combined with the CFO, you know, once a month, you should spend at least 1 or 2 hours on those compliance issues. Because if you don't do it and you always postpone these things to, I don't know, end of the year, and then end of the year is very busy and blah, 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 they're never going to do it. And so that's why we have a technology platform like a.DNA. Technology helps you to push. And it's not something that you immediately have to do now on the 31st or tomorrow on the 1st. But the system, the software pushes you every month to do certain things. Because otherwise, the color starts going from dark green to orange to red. And if your board members see certain areas red, they're probably going to call you and say, guys, what happened?
For sure. It's a good point. And can you talk a bit about the name? How did you come up with it?
Very simple. We looked at what we did and we said, yeah, we're collecting the DNA of companies. And we are authenticating authenticating and hashing this particular data. So the name was actually very simple. We're named after what we're doing, you know? And basically, as you have maybe seen at the last slide in my presentation, it's your company authenticated. That's it.
Simple.
Simple. I like simplicity. And of course, scalability and simplicity is usually a good match.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a startup.
And look, coming back to a compliant company, what is the impact that a compliant company has on multiple things, right? But the first one is on, for example, let's assume a company is raising a Series A, right? What's the impact of having a compliant deal room, due diligence materials on perhaps fundraising?
Very simple. No stress for the operational people. I mean, if you have your data, everything compliant and ready and testified, anyone knocking on your door or anyone really starting heavy due diligence, you have it. it really, I mean, I have a very good friend here in Switzerland. He sold quite a prominent software company in the financial market a year and a half ago. And he said, Dan, what you're showing me here, we would have needed 2 years ago, because our whole management team was going at 5 o'clock in the morning into the head office to do exactly what you're showing me. And then, of course, from 8 o'clock in the morning till the rest of the day, we had to, still run the company. So if you do this while you are starting and growing your company into 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and I mean, look, and this is very honest, I mean, one of the reasons why we started a.DNA as well, how many startups have we seen in our life that 4 founders were knocking on our doors and we gave them some money? Then eventually, after 6 months or 12 months, from the 4 founders, 2 have left. For various reasons, and you want to make sure, even if you're a little bit more mature SME company and you have a management team, and suddenly somebody out of the management team is leaving the company, or you want to fire this person from a board perspective, you want to be in a capable position to do that. So compliance, to me, has again a lot of elements that are found in trust, because the company has all its DNA ready for whatever purposes there might be. Like you said, next financing round. Maybe there is some merger discussions eventually happen between 2 parties who know each other already for quite some time. There is maybe a bank who wants to grant you a substantial loan and is interested in really looking into your DNA, seeing that you're not hiding anything from them. And that all equals to trust.
Yeah. Core. It's the core of a business, external and internal. Great. And look, could you maybe elaborate a bit about the technology behind a.DNA? I know it mentions blockchain. Can you maybe talk a bit about that?
Yeah. As I said in my entry statement, we tried to build a.DNA a couple of years ago on Web 2.0. And we spent a couple of $100,000 into that project. And then I think like 2011, 2012, we realized it's not working. The stickiness was missing. When we were introduced to blockchain technology, summer 2017, we realized that this blockchain DLT technology is what we were missing. Cryptocurrencies, and of course, that's not something I want to talk about, but the basic DLT blockchain layer was very, very convincing to us, because it has this decentralization aspect and it has this irrevocability, which we think is very key to not only what we're doing, but a lot of other things that people are doing on the foundation of blockchain technology. So I think for us, it was a real game changer, because we really believe in I think somebody very high up in IBM once said, what the internet did to communication, blockchain is going to do to transactions.
Yeah.
And I think it was the CEO of IBM who said that. I forgot her name or his name. No, I think it was a woman, her name. And I really believe in that. I think in a couple of years, we will see a lot more transactional elements that have its foundation on blockchain. So for our purpose, it's not only a marketing thing that we, as I said, just last year started to add, but it has a very high impact on what we're doing, because the next thing we are just in progress of doing based on blockchain is starting to NFT, non-fungible tokenize, our clients' most valuable assets. So it might be a patent, it might be a source code, it might be machinery that you have. And we want that our clients have them again ready for whatever purposes they need it eventually in a digital form. And NFT, in that sense, is a perfect solution for that.
Yeah.
Which NFT hasn't been around when we started in 2018, you know? So I think the whole evolution that everything around blockchain is taking is very good for the purposes that we're planning to do in the long run of a.DNA. This NFT technology that is now been around for 2-3 years has, I think, really matured that we can start now integrating that, as well as the hashing.
Can you maybe talk a bit about some examples that you see the NFT side of a.DNA taking in the future?
Yeah, I mean, a very simple example could, for example, be if an investor comes to us and on our next financing round says, okay, guys, I don't know, I give you 2 million on X valuation or XX valuation, but I need security. I want additional security. So by that time, we probably have our whole source code in an NFT. Now, of course, lots of people who listen to this or watch this, they will say, yeah, but the source code without the team is not much, you know. But still, just as an example, you could NFT a source code, you know, and basically pledge that for whatever grant or loan or investment you do. Or so, for example, a machinery company that gets a loan from a bank, and the bank says, "Look, you're not a quoted company. We need additional security. So maybe you own the manufacturing building that you're currently manufacturing. And then you can NFT that real estate and basically pledge that NFT against a loan. And the nice thing out of that, of course, is again entrepreneurial driven. You are starting to create your own track record on loans, because those 15 NFTs that you have given out maybe for your building, after 3 years or after 5 years, they come back into your credit folder that we will then have at that time in our a.DNA setup. We currently don't have it. So I think it is really something that, I had a presentation the other day where ESG was a big topic. And of course, we have an ESG folder in our data room. And I met a CEO who said, Dan, I really like what you do here because I sometimes have people who, are questioning, are we really doing what we're saying we're doing on the ESG side, And here I have an irrevocable, authenticated, fully approved C-level management, board management people data document, which basically shows that we have done what we have talked about. So I think the NFT side will become, especially during the active life of a company, quite interesting in the sense that, it helps you to be more dynamic when somebody on the investor side, on the public side, maybe questioning your ESG activity, you need to prove that you have done what you said, or you have what you have,
I think we kind of spoke about this, not on this call, but if a company goes bust, using the NFT side, creditors can actually come in and just take that. So I'd love for you to talk about that a bit.
Here you're touching on my second pain point, why I founded a.DNA, or we founded a.DNA. It's not only me. And my second pain point is clearly, as an investor, I'm not better and hopefully not worse than anyone else. I invest into 10 companies and 5 of them, they go bankrupt, total loss. 3 of them basically left pocket, right pocket. They don't return much. They don't even pay for our time. And 1 or 2 make it all up. Okay. That's fine. So probably most investors that listen to this, they will agree that that's the life of an investor or a VC. And my problem with those 5 that go out of business is not that they go out. Of course, we lose money, total loss. But the problem I had or still have is I'm confronted what here in the European market is called an insolvency manager. usually a person coming, or always coming, mostly coming from the government side. And of course, these people don't understand what kind of assets are still available in this company. And you know, insolvency laws, at least here in Europe, they're quite clear and regulated, and you have to do what you have to do. But if certain assets, and those really important assets, are already in an NFT, you could basically much, much quicker put those NFTs onto a marketplace and say, guys, here's a company 20 kilometers south of Stuttgart with these kind of assets, maybe 2 or 3, that has gone out of business. Who in this world is interested in buying that? You know? And an NFT then, of course, is testified as really still existing. So this machine is sitting down here on the on my ground, and it is physically still here. So making sure that NFTs aren't being sold 3 or 4 times, you know, because with digitalization of NFTs, that could be something that some people would try to do. And last but not least, you know, I mean, it is helping the government to efficient, or hopefully more efficient, and hopefully also more profitable, run down companies that, yeah, go out of business. Which, by the way, just to give you an example, is a huge market. You know, in Germany alone, 35 billion euro every year, repeating, go down. Of course, there's a lot of coffee shops and hairdressers and things, but there are companies with real interesting assets. Maybe not for somebody in Germany or Switzerland, but maybe somebody in Mexico has a need for this 10 or 15-year-old machine. And if he knows that this machine is available, he might buy it because he sits up on a lot of cash, which he hasn't invested in Mexico directly. You know? So this is my, but here we're clear. I mean, even though we are talking to some recovery departments of larger banks, which, usually have quite a lot of companies that are not in so great shape in their recovery department. But we know this second pain point will not be solved immediately. It probably will take another 2 or 3 years until we can really then start creating this marketplace for distressed sometimes or insolvent assets. You know, and I've talked to some of my friends in the hedge fund business or distress business in the States. And they say, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. And one of my best friends said, Ben, this is so typical that it comes out of Switzerland because, and I think he said that, otherwise I will say, Switzerland used to be the world champion in recycling, you know? We're recycling papers and PETs and PET material and lots of other things. And he basically said, yeah, well, why don't we try to recycle companies? And we're fully down to earth with our feet on this topic. I mean, lots of companies that go to insolvent, there's no asset whatsoever that should be recycled.
Makes sense. And look, the platform obviously holds a lot of sensitive documents, right, from these companies. What measures do you take to ensure data security and privacy?
Of course, very much. I could show you a graph on that if you like. Just to illustrate that quickly, let me quickly switch back. So, of course, very good point and very important point. We basically go out of business in no time if we don't make sure that documents are safe. And so we basically double encrypt every single document that is uploaded. First, we virus check it, then we encrypt it. We're just adding a technology that you can erase names, blackout names or things that you don't want to be shown on a document. And what is important, the security code or the key generating technology sits on your side, not on our side, it sits on your side. And the double encryption eventually leads to the point that if somebody really ever is able to break into your data room, he sees not the structure, he sees a whole bunch of encrypted documents. And as soon as he or she tries to pick one, he probably might be able to pick one, but then the alarm goes off, and he is not sure if he picked the rent contract from your company or he picked the shareholder agreement. He doesn't know because he can't see it. So from a technology point of view, of course, we have applied whatever today is possibly available to make sure that your data is very safe, because as you said correctly, we are not collecting guinea pigs of your company. We are really collecting the really important stuff. And by the way, I had a client from Germany the other day who said, Dan, our general accounting and documents and co-working documents that we're using on various other platforms, it's here in this ERP system from SAP, and my DNA data sits somewhere else. I find this as a diversification of risk. If we can talk about portfolio management strategies as a diversification of risk, already that is a good point. Because he tells me he's being hacked on his SAP system twice a month, 3 times a month.
That's a lot.
It's a big company, by the way.
Yeah. And look, you've earlier this year, well, we're only 1 month in, but you've released an app, mobile app. What was the thinking behind that? Most of these B2B softwares are usually web-based. So what was the thinking behind it?
2 things. I think since we are rolling out our technology or our platform, especially into the startup scene through incubators in various countries that find our, let's call it, good governance and compliance elements quite useful and supported by a technology for their incubation programs. So because of the startup scene that we are usually seeing as clients, mobile app is a must-have for that generation. And the second point is also for investors or board members that are traveling, that are moving around, and sometimes sit for an hour or an hour and a half in traffic jams or at the airport, and they have a little bit of time to look at their companies, either as a board member or as an investor. So it's both. It is the young generation want to have these things in a mobile app, and the more gray hair oriented guys, it's convenience. It's convenience.
Yeah.
I think it has also a practical application that, when you're moving around, even as a CEO, and you're sitting with your investor and he says, I need to see the last, the last document, you have it on your mobile. You can basically open it on your mobile on the fly. So it's both generation, technology-oriented younger people on the startup scene, but then convenience for anyone else involved with a company or a startup.
Makes sense. And look, a couple more questions. I'm aware of time, but how do you envision the future of digital compliance and its impact on global finance?
Good question. Since I'm not a lawyer, I think I'm not really qualified to answer this in detail. I can just say from an operational point of view as well as from an investor point of view, I think we need to make sure that all of us play by the rules much more. We need to avoid these FTX or whatever cases or Credit Suisse. I'm sitting in Switzerland, Credit Suisse as an example. And particularly board members and particularly investors have to understand that these compliance as well as corporate governance elements are on the to-do list in their job description, at least here in Switzerland. And so I think we we will have, I think, an increase in awareness both on the financial world, including banks, as well as board members, as well as private equity or venture capital investors, that due diligence doesn't stop on the day that you transfer the money. You need to continue watching and watching closely.
Right. Well, look, that's all we have time for today, Daniel, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us today. And for anyone interested in finding out more about a.DNA or Daniel, there's several links below or in the description that you can find, including how to get in touch with them. But thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to work much closer with the Wholesale Investor team, as well as your whole platform, which I find a very good contribution. Hopefully, we can also add a little bit of contribution to your business success.
Thank you, Daniel.